How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live special midweek edition. Reason we kind of wanted to do it this way was because, obviously, Indiana, their national championship victory came Monday night. A lot of people enjoyed the postgame show and got to see everything that was going on with that, and I don't blame them. I did the postgame show live from the upstairs pub, and for whatever reason, I believe it's a technical issue. What is it? Oh, I don't have my light on. A technical issue about why it was that the Hoosiers were not basically why they weren't able to hear me, the callers. That has been the biggest issue that we had on that day. We had a lot of people on mic. It was a ton of fun. I could see that for whatever reason my microphone has stopped. We're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna restart this because something has gone wrong here, and I'm not okay with it. So I'll be right back. All right, you know what? I'm just going to start this again. How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live, a special midweek edition to our show. As we had a little technical difficulty there, whatever reason, my key light went ahead and I turned that on, and it knocked out my camera. Ton of fun. Always an adventure here, to say the least. Want to talk about IU basketball, want to talk about IU football. Did the show from the upstairs pub. Great atmosphere at the upstairs pub. Always a great place to see a game. But this was really, really just an incredible atmosphere. All these people that were there. It was so much fun. And Kirkwood went nuts. Everybody went nuts. And it has taken a couple of days really for everything to sink in. Because this is, I mean, come on. Nobody expected any of this to happen. And then you have the kind of your flip side of that was watching Indiana basketball play against Michigan yesterday. And the frustration of an 86-72 loss, the fourth straight for the Hoosiers in this season, a season that is quickly unraveling. Because, they've had their opportunities along the way. We've known that this team has some serious flaws. And now they're starting to stack some losses. Lost to Nebraska, lost at Michigan State, lost at home against Iowa, lost to Michigan. And it's four straight ranked teams. Indiana's lost to them all. And really only been competitive against Nebraska at home, and even in that game, they let a 16-point lead disappear. Incredibly frustrating and a terribly flawed team. We're here to hear from you, talk about anything that you want to talk about today, because this is. Basketball season is getting ugly, and it's disappointing because we've seen what can happen in a very short amount of time, and people are very frustrated with basketball. And my concern with basketball is that it has lost a lot of juice. It just has lost a ton of juice from the Darian DeVries hiring to bringing in a whole new team. And it was a whole new team of guys that people weren't connected to. And then they've struggled. And it's not going to help build that connection with the team. And for the basketball program to now take center stage with football, as national champions, undefeated season, dream season, people are now going to look to basketball and say, impress us. And I don't know that this is an IU team that can do that. Because although early in the season we saw them cutting and playing hard and putting together fantastic possessions, stacking fantastic possessions, this is nowhere near what we saw early in the season. And 4 straight losses to 4 straight ranked teams just really shows how far this team has to go before it can possibly be considered a contender to go to the NCAA tournament. This doesn't look like a tournament team to me. 4 straight losses and you got your ass kicked in all of them. That's not how you get to the tournament. Doesn't pass the eye test right now. And so when the Hoosiers are sitting there at 3-5 in conference, 12-7 overall, next they go on the road to take on Rutgers, and that's not going to be an easy game. Winning on the road is difficult in the Big Ten. And what you then have to deal with Purdue, then you have to go to Los Angeles and take on a UCLA team that just beat Purdue, USC, Wisconsin, Oregon. This thing is in bad shape right now. We could start with yesterday's game where Indiana didn't really put up much of a fight, and Michigan is good. And it's frustrating for IU fans, to say the least, because there are more than a few who see Dusty May on that Michigan sideline and are frustrated that he's not at IU because Indiana decided to give Mike Woodson an extra year that went for nothing. And meanwhile, Dusty May has very quickly made Michigan one of the best programs in the country, and there's a lot of frustration about that, and understandably so. There should be a lot of frustrations about that. 812-393-2600. Give me a call. Talk to me about football. Talk to me about basketball. Whatever you would like. This is an IU basketball team and an IU program that is enjoying what just happened on the football field and is feeling the highest of highs with that. And now expect this basketball team to step up. Let's start off with what happened in that Michigan game, and that was a group of superior players taking it to IU on their home court for a full 40 minutes. Michigan shoots 51% overall, 40% from three-point range, just 22 of 33 from the free throw line, but when they went to the free throw line 33 times, Indiana gets hammered on the boards, 41-25. Hoosiers are whistled for 24 fouls. 2 starters foul out. Sam Alexis and Connor Enright foul out. And now you ask yourself, when you have that kind of performance where you just don't put up much of a fight at all, and then you look back at the schedule and you say, okay, well, Indiana got beat by 9 against Louisville on a neutral court. Went to Kentucky, got beat by 12. Let a 16-point lead escape against Nebraska. Then lose by 21 to Michigan State. Lose by 17 to Iowa. Lose by 14 to Michigan in a game that honestly didn't feel that close. And you can't help but wonder, why am I going to pour myself into this team, engage with this team, where most of the guys are going to be gone next year because they're seniors and they're graduating, and there's not a lot to hang your hat on right now. Lamar Wilkerson is a hell of a talent. Lamar Wilkerson scored 8 points against Michigan. We run through some of the individuals of this game. Tucker DeVries, 15 points on 5 of 11 shooting, 4 of 9 from three-point range, had 3 rebounds and 3 assists in 30 minutes. He was a bright spot. That 4 of 9 from three-point is incredibly important because of the fact that he has been in a substantial shooting slump. He got 11 points from Sam Alexis on 5 of 8 shooting, had just 3 rebounds for Alexis, and he fouled out in just 19 minutes. Those are the only 2 starters to score in double figures. Tayton Connerway played just 2 minutes because that ankle injury just isn't allowing him to do anything right now. Connor Enright, 8 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 34 minutes. Lamar Wilkerson plays 38 minutes, is really outside of Tucker DeVries, Indiana's only offensive threat at this point. 8 points on 3 of 10 shooting, missed all 5 of his three-point attempts, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, but he had 3 turnovers and led the team at minus 15. Off the bench, you had Nick Dorn, 14 points on 4 of 9 shooting. All of those 4 makes came from three-point range, which is a positive. He had some foul trouble as well. Reed Bailey, 11 points on 3 of 5 shooting, had just 2 rebounds. 3 turnovers in 23 minutes. He had foul trouble. Josiah Miles plays just a couple of minutes. Trent Sisley, 2 points, goes 0 of 7 from the floor. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, had a block. And Alexa Ristich comes in late, plays 6 minutes, scores 3 points. 25 rebounds on the game, only 5 offensive boards for the Hoosiers, and a 14-point loss. Again, that score was a hell of a lot worse at some times. You know, this is a Michigan team that led by 25 midway through the second half. Yeah, they're playing at home. Yeah, they're doing that, but it's just not. It's not worthwhile. I mean, it is. You watch this team, and I'm hearing from fans. I'm hearing from people who I know who deeply care about IU basketball, saying that they're turning the game off, and they are turning. They had forgotten that there was a game. That happened last Saturday. I had somebody who told me that they forgot that Indiana even had a game, and they were somebody who has been locked in for a long time. The issue with Indiana basketball is just a severe growing apathy for this program. And yeah, everybody's attention's been on football, and understandably so. They have been just transcendent this year. And a ton of fun to watch, and most importantly, they never let their fans down. You have an interesting situation with this basketball team that you have a bunch of guys that have no connection to Indiana basketball. Some of them, they're in their 3rd uniform in college basketball. And so they're out there playing, and they're playing and trying to win games. They obviously want to win and play for each other, but are they playing for each other? Do you have that kind of brotherhood? How quickly can you really develop that when there are so many new faces? And I understand why there are so many new faces. The program needed a hard reset, and that's what we got. In the meantime, growing this program for the future means that in the meantime, you have to suffer through some awful things. And early in the season, it didn't seem like it was going to be as awful as we have seen the last 4 games. But the flaws that Indiana has have really, really shown out big, really big. And so now that's what we have. Troika says, I was pretty close to turning off the Michigan basketball game, and you're not alone. A lot of people have said the same thing, that they're watching and they're getting no happiness out of it. And you got to look at where the program is big picture. Short term, it's terrible. Short term, it's not good. Defense has really been struggling. They are lacking speed, athleticism, quickness. They're getting out-rebounded. You have a bunch of guys that have never played Big Ten basketball, so they don't really know what it takes to win in the Big Ten. They've won some Big Ten games, but it's different when you get to January and February and start stacking these tough games week after week after week. That keeps coming up. And if you have a program that is not grabbing fans, not building any kind of momentum, in fact, quite the opposite, it's really difficult to catch the hearts and minds because of the last 8 or 9 years of IU basketball. You know, you look back at the past couple of years, and what you have is just mediocrity, total mediocrity, and it has continued. We have caller, have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey Ken, it's Troy from Elkhart,
Hi, Troy.
Troika
Yeah,
on the chat.
good to hear from you. How you
Hey,
doing? I appreciated you
yeah,
calling after the football game. I'm sorry you couldn't hear me, but I think I had this AI noise canceling thing to help with the loudness in upstairs pub, and I think that made it so that callers couldn't hear me. But I appreciated you fighting through on that.
yeah, no, I totally understand.
Yeah.
And I, if I were in the upstairs pub after the game, I would probably be pretty loud too, as a patron of the joint. Um, I want to talk about football just real quickly,
Sure.
and then I'll get on to the basketball team. But do, for the celebration on Saturday, I'm from Elkhart. I'm actually going to try to drive down there. I've been texting with friends, seeing who wants to go to the celebration on Saturday. Do you know? Do they open all the gates, or is it a certain area um, that they that
That I
people are
don't
let
know.
into?
That I don't know. I've only seen the same announcements that everybody else has. Coming from Elkhart, I know isn't easy, and I need to mention that the weather that we're looking at here in Bloomington, I think it's pretty much all throughout the area. I don't know what time the snow is going to start, but I do know that it is forecast 3 to 5 inches on Saturday night, with another 3 to 5 inches Sunday during the day. So you do have some weather considerations as well. So keep that in
Yeah,
mind.
yeah, definitely. I I I have my sisters in Indianapolis, so
Okay,
hopefully if I can just make it from back from Bloomington into Indy, before it gets too bad on Saturday
sure.
night. I think I'd be all right. But anyways, all right. So football. I mentioned it on that last call. Unbelievable season. Perfect regular season. Never expected that. Never expected to, or didn't think we could get a Heisman winner, um, at our school, um, win the Big Ten championship, win the national championship, and to do it all in one year is unbelievable. And I don't consider, if I didn't mention or anyone didn't mention it, I don't consider Yale to be a perfect 16-0 because they played,
Yeah,
uh, you know, like three or four of those teams were the athletic club of whatever. And, I don't know if maybe that's at or above college level competition back then, but it's not college, an official college team. So, yes, they were 16-0, but, some of those teams weren't college teams. So
yeah, that's the
I,
challenge of some of those historical things, especially with that. Consider they couldn't throw the football. I know for a fact that Indiana football back in the day used to play like the local YMCA and dental schools and all that. It was primitive,
yeah,
is what it is. And
yeah,
so to me, it is so different. It's the history of college football, but you really have to kind of segment that. It pre-face mask is a completely
yeah,
different game than
yes,
what it is now. So yeah, there's no question that this year is a lot different than what we've seen in 1894. I agree with you completely.
yeah, yeah. So I did hear a little bit more about that Mark Fletcher, Tyreek Tucker situation. Uh, Someone in one a comment, all hearsay, but someone said one of the Miami assistant coaches that was holding Fletcher back said that supposedly Tyreek had said something about Mark Fletcher's dad, who had passed away, I think, last year. And probably just a lot of jawing, but if that's true, that would have been a sort of a low thing to
But
say.
by that same token, I would be really surprised if he knew anything about that, and second, if he did, I know that Tyreek Tucker, from what I understand, lost a parent recently as well. So that would be really surprising if
Yeah,
he knew it and went down that route.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was, that's just, like I said, I only heard it from the comments, and 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 so who knows how much truth is what that person's source was.
Right.
but they did say, hey, and I did see this too, is Fletcher did wait around to give Mendoza a shake or a dap him up after
Yeah.
the game, and supposedly he had to wait quite a while to to reach out to him because I don't know whatever interviews or whatever Mendoza was doing.
Right.
So I don't know. Interesting situation, and either way, it sucks either way. But
For sure.
but I do hope, and I mentioned I was really didn't like how I saw our line of scrimmage being pushed around or how we weren't getting to the quarter. Our defensive line seemed to be pushed around by their offensive line, and our defensive line couldn't get to back as often as I thought put as much pressure as I thought we might be able to.
Right.
So that's why I said before. I hope we just keep on building up on the lines of scrimmage. But I trust Sig and the staff, and they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
So,
you have to trust him at this point for sure.
Yeah, totally trust them. I think hey, winning a national championship, getting to the championship game every year, or making it into the playoffs every year. That's not necessarily going to happen, but I do see our program as being much different than when I was in school,
Right.
or how we've the ups and downs that we've seen, because we had some good spurts of a season or two here and there, and 2020 was 2019 2020 were good seasons, so we've had things here and there. So I see a more consistent program, which Dig with his process, that's what he brings. So regarding the basketball team, I still believe in Darian DeVries, and I believe in what he's doing. I not really happy with like I said, I almost turned off the Michigan game.
Yeah.
Because I think I saw it when it was over 20 point deficit, or I don't know if it was over 25 or whatever it was, but I was just like, man, this is terrible. And I, just sort of disappointed with the way Tucker and Lamar have been playing. I mean, but I don't know. It's all not a lot of team chemistry. I mean, some of these guys have played together. The guy from DePaul and Tucker had played, obviously at before, like two schools before or whatever. But I just I don't know. I want to see how the whole season goes. I mean, overall, I wouldn't judge DeVries until I see,
Oh, for sure.
at least 2, if not 3 or 4 years. But yeah, if he's not showing, hey, I can take the team and I can see what our strengths and weaknesses are, and I can adjust a game plan. I can adjust in game. Towards the middle and end of the season, then yeah, I'm definitely gonna have more concerns. But I would think if he can have some guys in the program for more than 1 year, maybe there's more of them being able to more time for them to gel together. We'll see how it goes. But I still, at this point, disappointed with how things are going currently. But like you said at the beginning of the year, they're doing pretty good. So
they had chemistry at the beginning of the year. That's what's frustrating to me is they had that chemistry, and I know the opponents were different. I get that, but it doesn't change the way you interact on the court. And to me, that is what is concerning for me.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I just I watched like maybe a little bit of the first 2 games or so, and then I was just watching football. I was watching football, podcasts regarding football, and so I just stayed out of watching basketball. And but we'll see how it goes. But I will probably yak to too much here, but I'll get off and enjoy the rest of the show. And like I said before, appreciate everything you do and Peegs does covering Indiana sports, especially the football program and the basketball program. It's much appreciated.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Be
All right,
safe
thank you.
driving down on Saturday.
All right, we'll do. All
Take
right,
care.
bye.
Speaking of that coverage that we have for Peegs.com, wanted to bring in Trevor Andershock from Peegs.com. Trevor, how are you doing? And let's start off with your thoughts about what happened at Michigan yesterday.
Doing well, Ken. A lot better than what happened up in Ann Arbor, that's for sure. Really, I mean, you look at Michigan; it's a national title contender. They're bigger, faster, stronger, more skilled than IU. All that's being said, you figure IU would come out with more enthusiasm, more energy, facing that top team on the road when you've lost a few games in a row. I thought just the energy and the focus was disappointing to start the game. I mean, Michigan starts off 9-0 and kind of just controls it from there. I thought IU would have more, energy, more movement, kind of just a kind of, I don't know, a spark to them, knowing that this is an opportunity to really make a name for yourself, really improve your resume. And once again, just like the Iowa game, really, you come out flat, especially on the offensive end. You don't show anything that you can really hold or be proud of
Right.
going forward. And I thought that was the biggest issue to me. You knew it was an uphill battle, but I just thought from the tip that the energy and the effort would be a little bit better than it was last night.
Is there a challenge in this program uh, with so many guys that they're one and done here, and they know they're one and done here? Uh, you talk about building resumes. You talk about that a lot of these guys, some of them might have, plans to play basketball beyond this season at different levels. But how difficult is it when you start unraveling a little bit? There isn't
I think it's
there isn't really any kind of chemistry to build off or past experiences. Everybody was thrown together and the early chemistry was fine. But when things start to unravel, how difficult is that to just get everybody on the same page at that point?
I think it's really difficult, and I haven't seen him really fall apart from that standpoint yet.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the best things Mike Woodson did in his tenure was when things were going bad, somehow he kept the team together. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, they didn't play great and stuff, but it seemed like they always kept together, and he got the locker room to bond together. And Darren DeVries said he thought the locker room was still really good after the game last night. He thought there was positives they could build off of. But when you're losing 3, 4 games in a row, and you just see your schedule getting tougher and tougher while you're losing 3, 4 games in a row, I think it's really tough to stay together, especially like you said, most of these guys are going to be done, especially at IU after this season. How do you keep them together, get them to see the big picture, even if it's not, winning ball games right now? Like you said, if you want a pro career, everything you put on tape is going to either help you or hurt you. There's
Right.
no middle ground there. So you still want to be playing your best basketball, and that kind of revolves around playing good team basketball as well. That stuff helps you long term. So keeping everybody together is really tough. Obviously, hopefully you get back on track at Rutgers Friday night. But if you lose that one, then I think you're really in trouble of the locker room splintering and everybody kind of just going their own way after that one.
Yeah, because the challenge here again is uh, you want to, you mentioned playing good team basketball. You do want to do that, and you see that. However, when you do have losses starting to stack, then at that point it is, hey, I might have to do some stuff, just for myself because this thing isn't going anywhere, and that's when things really start to fall apart. And like you said, the schedule coming up, you're on the road at Rutgers. You're playing at home against a very tough Purdue team. Then you go out west and you take on UCLA and USC. Then you got Wisconsin and Oregon and Illinois and Purdue. It doesn't get any easier. How do they fix this short term? What is your answer? Fix everything for me, Trevor.
I wish I had that answer. I'd be making a lot more money, that's for sure. I mean,
Where do they start?
it's really, really tough. I mean, obviously, I thought they did some really good things against Nebraska. The movement, the ball movement, the player movement, a few new offensive actions. They built that 16-point lead against them early in the second half. And then ever since then, you've kind of seen them regress a little bit offensively, especially defensively. I mean, that's a huge problem on the defensive end. But if at least you had things going right on the offensive end, you could kind of sugarcoat the defense end right now. But right now, you don't have anything to really hang your hat on. I think it really goes back to trying to get Tucker DeVries and Lamar Wilkerson better shots and more open shots. You've seen defense, especially in the Big Ten, just say, we're not helping off these guys. You can do whatever you want to do, but we are not leaving these guys open for the catch. And I think that's made it really difficult on IU because you rarely have 3 or 4 real scorers on the court at a time for IU. And I think that's another big issue. Like, you just don't have enough talent, especially offensively, to get Wilkerson and DeVries open shots. We've seen Tatum Connerway do some good things off the dribble, but then he makes some bad decisions. He gets loose with the ball. Turnovers kind of pile up for him. Teams aren't really guarding Connor Enright. That makes things difficult. Reed Bailey's obviously had his struggles at the rim. Sam Alexis has had some bright spots, especially last night, but then he fouls out in only 19 minutes.
Right.
Like, it's really hard to build on these things when you are just so behind, a team like Michigan in not just like skill level, but size, athleticism, even just overall strength.
Right.
Sometimes if you're undersized and really strong, you can offset it, but IU doesn't even have that. So trying to fix it in the midst of the Big Ten schedule is really, really tough. And I am not jealous of the job Darian DeVries has coming up here. Like you mentioned, I always circled them going to LA and those games following as a crucial point in the season. I thought you go out to the West Coast and you're a little bit jet lagged coming back, even if you're a favorite against Wisconsin, I think that kind of gets offset with the travel. Oregon's kind of in the same position. They've been struggling, but the travel, the jet lag still hurting you at that point. I mean, that's when the schedule really takes a step up. And we're talking about that as they're in the middle of a 4-game losing streak right now. So it just gets tougher from here, and I don't know how you get it back on track. There's no simple answer, that's for sure.
There's certainly been, they've been able to be explosive offensively at times, but how much of a challenge is it when you do have Big Ten teams that have superior athleticism and speed? It seems to me, Trevor, that Indiana is kind of easy to guard when they are not cutting hard, when the ball isn't moving, because you don't have anybody that could really create off the bounce, save for Tatum Connerway at times. But if you don't have defenses collapsing and give you an opportunity to kick it out to open shooters, it is basically just stay with your guy and make everything they do difficult. How challenging is it to even change what you're doing?
Yeah, and it's a point to, like, teams don't even have to guard Enright, and partly Connerway. They're leaving him pretty open on the perimeter as well. So even if you're having those guys move, defenses don't have to respect them. So they would just be moving for the sake of moving. How do you get them involved where their movement actually causes the defense to react? I think that's the major issue. They aren't getting 5 guys on the court that make defenses pay attention to them, have defensive gravity where you're not leaving them other than Wilkerson and DeVries. I think that's where the main issues on the offensive end come from. You just don't have enough guys on the court at one time that really put pressure on the defense. Like, you can get dives for Sam Alexis here and there. Reed Bailey gets those dives. Connerway gets the off the dribble stuff once in a while. But possession after possession, you don't have them putting pressure on the defense. They get to put, more attention to DeVries and Wilkerson, and it just makes everything really tough. It's kind of like Mike Woodson days where teams would just, stockpile the paint take those driving lanes
Right.
away, make it tough on the post players. You're seeing a different form of that when you're putting guys like Connor Enright, Taden Connerway, Reed Bailey and Sam Alexis do not need to be guarded away from the basket. So that makes it tough on driving lanes and things like that. It just kind of just all snowballs into a collection of making things really tough on the offensive end, no matter the actions you're doing to try to get Lamar Wilkerson and Tucker DeVries open.
Talking to Trevor Andershock from Peegs.com. Trevor, what are you optimistic about for this final third of the season we have coming up?
Yeah, that's really tough. I asked that to Darian DeVries last night, and yeah, he basically just said, the way they kept staying in the game last night and that the locker room was still together.
Well,
They
what the
think
hell
they
is he
can
going to
build on
say?
things
What,
going
what
forward.
the
Yeah,
whole thing
yeah,
with
yeah.
DeVries? I mean, we've been around coaches. What is he going to say? It's a mess in there. Oh my God, no, that's not what they're going to say. So that because I heard him say that and I thought it's a great question, but that definitely even if things were going poorly, he was going to say that the locker room was staying together.
Yeah, and I mean that's nothing to really hang your hat on
Yeah.
when you're talking about X's and O's or strategy or anything like that going forward. So I think they're kind of in the same position we are, is we don't see many positives. I mean, if you can somehow get Wilkerson and DeVries going offensively, that gives you a fighting chance. But we haven't even talked about the defensive weaknesses.
Yeah.
They are just getting killed in the Big Ten schedule going to the basket. It's been just layup after layup, clean looks inside, and then that makes it tough to defend the 3-point line as well. They've given up more than 1.2 points per possession in 5 of the last 6 games, and you just don't win basketball games when you're doing that. You might do it one game here or there when you have a special offensive night, but you're not beating teams consistently when you're giving up points that easily. And I think that's another issue where you really can't do much. You don't have rim protection. You don't have the athletes on the perimeter. How do you change that in the Big Ten schedule? I think they're really up against the wall defensively, even more than the offensive ends.
Looking longer term, how much of a challenge is this in just trying to sell what the foundation or what the program wants to look like to guys coming out of high school who are being recruited and also guys that are going to be in the transfer portal? How do you sell what it is that you're doing as the season goes on and there are struggles? How much of a challenge is that to try to sell a foundation that hasn't been great this year? Doesn't mean it won't be great down the way when there's a little bit more time, but how much of a challenge is that to convince people to come here if you don't have the kind of season that you're hoping for?
Yeah, I think that's why the transfer portal recruiting this year is, I hate to say it, make or break for the Darian DeVries era. But like you said, you don't have much to hang your head on to really point to positive in the recruiting side of things here. So if you don't have a great recruiting class in the transfer portal this year, it just gets tougher year after year. That's why I think they really need to hit a home run with those transfers this season. They have some good players in the mix coming out of high school, kind of on that Trent Sisley level where they're probably going to be 3 or 4 year guys, somebody that you can build on. Prince Alexander Moody from the D.C. area, Vaughn Carrella, who is originally from Wisconsin, playing out in Arizona at prep school now. Maybe another one coming up here. Those are guys you can build on for the future, but it's kind of like Sisley. You've seen the flashes as a freshman, but you're not going to count on him to kind of carry the load. So
Right.
you really need a great transfer portal this season. If you can really hit that home run this year, I think that really changes the trajectory of the Darian DeVries era. But on the flip side, if you only have a mediocre haul out of the portal this year, I think it gets really tough on them. I think you still can sell the DeVries vision after this year. You just say you didn't have the pieces to really put in place. But then if you have a repeat of this year, next year, then it gets really, really tough to sell your vision because you've had 2 years to put it in place and you haven't done it. So I think this transfer portal in the spring is going to just be massive for Darian DeVries and the IU program.
So this is not an easy question to ask. Last one I'll have for you though is, given what we've seen over during the past 21 days of 2026, what we saw during the non-conference season, do you think this is a team that could kind of pull it together and get to the NCAA tournament given the challenges they have waiting ahead of them?
Yeah, I still do think they can make the NCAA tournament. Obviously, it's getting tougher and tougher with every game here. But like we've said for the last few years on the Peegs.com board and in articles, like you have to get 68 teams in. They aren't all great teams. So you don't have to be a fantastic team to get in the NCAA tournament. Obviously, it's another kind of question, is that good enough just to get into the NCAA tournament? But I do think there's still enough wins. You beat teams like Rutgers, you get one or two in LA, beat Oregon or Wisconsin at home. I think you get enough that you're going to have an NCAA tournament resume, or at least a chance to have an NCAA tournament resume coming up, even with all these struggles. So I think that is some of the optimism, something that can keep the team together. Just remind them that they are in the NCAA tournament kind of selection process here, and that they have a chance. But you have to take advantage of these games. Like at Rutgers, you cannot lose that one. Some of these other easier ones like Oregon at home, Northwestern at home, you can't lose those games for sure. And then you got to steal one or two going forward, Purdue at home, something like that. But then you're in the NCAA tournament, and at least you have something to be proud of, something to build on going forward.
Well, Trevor, I appreciate you taking the time to call and give your insights on this. It's has not been the start that I think that a lot of people hoped for. But every game's a new opportunity, and we have seen them play well together in the past. And hopefully they could pull it together and make a run, because it's needed, especially now that the spotlight turns on to them. Thank you so much for joining me.
Appreciate it, Ken. Enjoy the show.
I appreciate it. Take care.
See you.
812-393-2600 is the number. Lines are open. It's kind of interesting just to see, again, just the fan reaction to these games. And, the college basketball world and college sports world is so different than it once was. You look at Mike Woodson was bringing in high-level players to come in. It wasn't working because you had a lot of guys, just that turnover. You didn't have that foundation. But you still have to build a roster. You don't need the top talent there, but you do need guys who fit together. And that is one thing I think that is lacking, is just the balance of this program, in being able to have guys who could create off the dribble, or have guys who can score inside and be a post presence. It is a flawed roster. Doesn't mean that it's a flawed way to play. Darian DeVries has had success other places, at Drake, at West Virginia last year. They won 19 games, and he got this opportunity to come to IU. And now it really is just about trying to squeeze out some wins going forward in a very, very difficult Big Ten, and also do that with the backdrop of trying to sell a program for the future, and also sell it to a fan base who is incredibly frustrated about the lack of success that the team has had. Also with the backdrop of the Indiana football team being incredibly successful at a level not seen before over the past 2 years. It is a lot. It's a lot to deal with, to say the least. Speaking of football, I have been really fascinated by, first off, if you haven't done it yet, go on Instagram, look at all the different reels of all the different reactions from other schools. People are creative as hell when it comes to putting together these things. I saw one today. It was a woman in a Purdue hat who was just kind of holding her head. She was clearly watching the game and kind of recording her view of it. And she has... she's watching it and she's like, I can't believe Indiana football just won a national championship. How long are we going to have to hear about this? Forever. Because Indiana fans do have that in their back pocket. I'm also more than a little surprised by some of the Miami reactions to this. Look, everybody is upset when they lose, and I get it. But I have been stunned by the dismissal of Indiana, even by Miami people who watch their team lose. And some of the media that covers it, some of the other podcasters that cover their team, sit there and say, we had no business losing. We were clearly the better team. We had the better talent. We were clearly the better team. We played a better game, and we just lost. And I can't believe this. Indiana's getting to celebrate this because they had no business winning this. They've been the undefeated team. They've lost twice in 2 years. Curt Cignetti now owns 5.4% of all Indiana football wins that there have ever been. And people are going to go ahead and talk about how, they weren't the ones that should have won. Miami was the better team. They might have had the better talent, but Indiana unquestionably was the better team in college football in every single game they played this year because they won the damn thing and won most of them convincingly. We have another caller. Caller, if you have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken. It's Jared Kelly.
Hey, Jared, how you doing?
Hopped on. I'm good. I just I was listening to you pivot over to football, so I figured I'd call in and we'll chat a little bit about this national championship, which I still cannot believe.
Yes, sir.
Those words are coming out of my mouth.
Jared Kelly from Peegs.com. Yeah, when I was at the upstairs pub, I was just doing the show, but the TVs were on and had Indiana football national champions. And sure, I've seen that personally a lot when I play college football 26. I've won a couple of national championships on the Xbox, but this is real life. And what was that atmosphere like, and what was that celebration on the field like?
I mean, it was unbelievable. First of all, just to see the amount of red and crimson in the stands, and people have tried to estimate. I think it was kind of hard to get a good estimation from where we were sitting of the crowd split, but I think Indiana probably edged it out, if not slightly. But I think they did edge out Miami. They were definitely the louder fan base, if nothing else. Indiana fans were, and then when Jamari Sharp got that last interception to seal the game, the D'Angelo Pons. Pick six to start the Oregon game in the Peach Bowl was the loudest I've ever heard a stadium, but that Jamari Sharp interception might have been the second loudest I've ever heard a stadium. And then just the jubilation to see, around the stadium on fans' faces. So many fans stayed afterwards to take in the trophy ceremony. We heard So Good by John Mellencamp. They were blasting that around the stadium. They blasted This Is Indiana. Just to see all these people, staying and singing those songs and hugging each other. It's not even a scene out of a movie. I don't even think you can script these kind of things at this point.
Well, and then you have, the Mendoza score where it's 4th and 5, and he runs it himself, gets hit, dives in. People are trying to come up with, the name for it, the Mendoza Miracle or the Super Mendoza, which I kind of like. But to have those kind of plays happen, and so many of these plays that you could think of just from through the course of the season, whether it is the Surratt touchdown catch against Iowa, the Omar Cooper catch against Penn State, you have that play that is the Mendoza play that's incredible. There are so many of these moments in this undefeated season that I already saw people saying, I'm already nostalgic for this team because of how much joy that it's given to them. It's almost difficult to think about coming back and starting over next year.
Right. And that's so true. We've been doing this for 5 months now. We've been at this basically every single Saturday. And that's a whole different different conversation with how long the football calendar is. But, we've been working it, whether you're a fan, whether you're a reporter, what have you. But we've been around this team for so long that it's going to be so weird going into next Saturday, not having a game to look forward to. But it really is. I think a lot of fans don't want to let go of this team just because of the joy they brought them. And just the players. I think the players represented themselves so well as ambassadors of the university, as just humans that you want to rally around and really cheer for. We even tonight, you see all the fans that showed up at Dick's Sporting Goods for the Fernando Mendoza autograph signing. There was even fans there that didn't even get a wristband to be part of the autograph line, but they were just there just so they could see Fernando Mendoza.
Right.
It's truly it's one of the more communal maybe sporting things I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, this isn't just a sports story. This is a community story, right? Like, they brought together an entire alumni base, probably people that didn't even care about football. They brought together for a team.
Well, and I've seen people, especially Miami fans or whoever it is, they're like, well, a lot of these people didn't even pay attention to football until the last couple of years. They were focused on Notre Dame or, this, that, and the other. And yeah, reversible jacket fans have been a thing for a long time, and it's something that I hate. But by that same token, you could only get your hopes up for a season and get them crushed year after year after year before maybe you start to struggle with that. But this has made it so that Indiana football is fun. And I love the videos that I'm seeing of like the first run out from Cignetti's first game to where it is now in when I think it was his 29th game. It has really just brought everybody together and made them excited for Indiana football in a way that was simply unimaginable. The Indiana fan base always wanted Indiana football to be good, desperately wanted them to be good. But to hit this level this quickly, I don't even, it's, you raise expectations, but even when we get into next year and they continue, if they continue their winning ways, even if you don't go to a college football playoff or a national championship, it's not going to be like at Ohio State or Clemson or anything. People are not going to be used to this even next year.
No, you're right. And I've seen this floated around, this sentiment a couple of times, in that Indiana completely bypassed like every single benchmark on the way to this net. Like, before it was, okay, let's just get to 6 wins. That was the barometer. But then, you think of programs like Iowa, they're perennially like an 8 to 10 win team, and they're going to the Citrus Bowl or the Music City Bowl. Like, Indiana has completely bypassed every single barometer, and it's incredible. Like, and that's why I think Indiana fans right now, they don't know what to do with themselves, because there was never this gradual build-up. There was never, a couple of 7-win seasons, a couple of 9-win seasons, and then you get to the national championship. Like, no, this happened so quickly that, and that's why it's been so hard. Even from my standpoint as an observer, as a reporter, it's been so hard to put it into words, because we haven't had a second to even sit down and breathe and internalize it, because it's happened so quickly.
It has. It's been incredibly fast to see everything. Speaking with Jared Kelly from Peegs.com, got a couple callers on the line too. Stick with us, fellas, because I want to get to you as well. But I also wanted to talk to Jared about you have Alberto Mendoza announces that he's transferring, which I actually understand. It's a shame to see him go. The Mendoza family is there, but how do you top this if you're Alberto Mendoza and you want to play? And obviously Josh Hoover is coming in for next year, and that's the thing, Jared, is this brand and what Curt Cignetti has been able to build. People want to be a part of it, and you already have guys lining up to go ahead and come in next year and hopefully be able to keep this thing rolling.
Right. And look, I know fans have an attachment to Alberto because of obviously his family, his background. He was, one of the huge reasons why Fernando ultimately came to Indiana. I get all that. But we're talking about a kid that has, I think 25 career, half attempts in his entire career.
Right.
And all of them came in garbage time. Like, we have not seen him play meaningful football. And that doesn't mean he's not going to be good. That doesn't mean he can't be a capable Power 4 starter in time. But when you're Indiana, after you just had the season you had, you would be an absolute fool not to leverage the success into going out and getting proven production, right? And that's what Cignetti ultimately targets. And I've also seen sort of this concern, if you will, that Indiana has become this program that recruits over its own recruits, if you will, via the transfer portal. And I don't think that's necessarily true, because to stay at this level, you need to have players who are ready to play at this level. And there's just too much uncertainty with, underclassmen. And I think too, like, you saw guys like Charlie Becker this year, right? He really only got on the field because of injuries. And I'm not saying that you want injuries, but that's your time to prove yourself, is if a guy goes down. But it's going to be very hard, I think, for players to come in the off season and outright win a role. So guys are going to have to take advantage of their opportunities when they come. And that's just the landscape Indiana's in right now, is you're going to have to be okay with players leaving that you don't want to leave because you set such a high standard for yourself.
Last question for you, Jared, before I get to the guys that are waiting. But that whole idea of being able to step in to the next role, to be able to step up from a culture standpoint, you had the JMU guys came that kind of set the standard. How important is it going to be for guys who maybe didn't play as big a role this year to make it clear where that standard is and not let it slip?
I think that's going to be the biggest X factor going into this offseason. And a part of that is yesterday Indiana just lost its head strength coach, Derek Owens, to Tennessee. And a lot of players had said throughout the season, like, he is, besides Kurt Signetti, he might be the foremost leader in this locker room because he's with the players every day as a strength coach. And then you lose, your locker room leaders like Aiden Fisher, like all the seniors, like all the JMU guys that you mentioned. It's going to be more so than following the 2024 season. I think this offseason is going to be a lot more a season of change for Indiana and to the leadership component. I think Indiana will do a good job of identifying, in my opinion, they'll do a good job of identifying leaders who can come in like a Pat Coogan did this year. But the guys who are homegrown, like an Isaiah Jones, like a Tyreek Tucker, Jamari Sharp next season, you're going to expect Charlie Becker, Omar Cooper,
right.
Two guys that are kind of reserved to step up and be leaders. So it's going to be definitely a big season of change. I think the program is going to look a lot different. At least the roster will next season. So that's actually something I'll be looking for is just kind of how the leadership and the locker room coalesces throughout the season, because it's not just the players, but it's also the coaching staff. So it'll be that part of it will be fascinating.
Well, Jared, I appreciate you calling in, and I'll let you go, but I got to tell you, I appreciate all the coverage. You've been working your ass off, and try to get a little bit of rest. Enjoy a Saturday off.
I will. Thanks, Ken.
Take care. Appreciate Jared calling in, as well as Trevor Andershock. They're great. Going to go ahead and get to next caller. Caller, if you have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken. Nico from St. Louis, Missouri. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. How you doing?
Not too bad. Well, pretty great, actually, given the circumstances, right?
Right.
So I think on a previous show, you said the first time you did these call-in shows, the team went 1-11, correct?
Yes.
What year was that?
That was Kevin Wilson's first year. Was the
Yep.
first year that I was co-host of the call-in show on the IU Radio Network, and then I started doing it on YouTube. After Signetti was hired, they decided not to continue the call-in show for whatever reason, and I knew there was an audience, so I stuck with it. But boy, it's been an absolute joy to do it the past couple of years. I can tell you that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, fortunately you stuck with it because this is paying off. But so Wilson's first year, I was a walk-on that team. And I, one of the coolest things to see with all this is at 18 years old, it was a D1 program, but that culture wasn't there. Right. And I think Wilson started to build something up. Allen obviously continued to build up the culture, but to see in 2 years, Signetti bring all these kids together and get to a point where, the culture of the team was on par with any other blue blood program. To sit in there for 16 plus game weeks and do what they did, just incredible.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Tom Allen. This is an IU team that everybody who's covered them and every national people, local people have said just how great they are to deal with, how good a guys they are. They're easy to root for. I think Tom Allen has a lot to do with that. There's been a lot of transfer guys, I understand that, but that foundation of the guys that have been here for 4 or 5 years, that started with Tom Allen and the kind of guys that he was bringing into the program, and that shouldn't be overlooked, some of that kind of attitude that some of those guys had too.
Absolutely. No, it was great when they were having success, and it was fun to cheer for that team, and it felt good to cheer for that team, and obviously the performance kind of trailed off at the end there. But it's also, they didn't lose a step. They didn't sacrifice anything on the types of people with this new hire and the types of people they brought in. I mean, I have kids now, and they're young, but I've told them, looking at like Fernando Mendoza in interviews, that's the type of guy you want to be like if you're going to play sports.
Absolutely.
That's the type of person you want to be.
Anyway,
I'll leave it at that, but thank you.
Did you say that you walked on to Kevin Wilson's first team?
Yeah, I was a freshman in 2011.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that. You say you walk in to that. What was that? Going 111 and doing all that. What was that like to have to get through that? And this is your opportunity, to play Big Ten football and then to struggle as much as that team did. And how long did you play for Wilson?
So I walked in. I was there over the summer prior to what the rest of the freshman enrollment was. So I had time, in that summer period. Spent the whole season, fall and part of the spring. I actually dislocated my hip on doing weight room stuff, and I'm not the athlete or anything that was capable, and I was always kind of outperforming. And ultimately, I was coming to Indiana anyway, and so I looked for other opportunities while on campus. The rest of my time, but it's always obviously instilled a fandom and following of the team. But it was different, right? This was coming off the Lynch stuff. There was that country club, the Lynch Country Club idea, and I don't know Bill Lynch or anything, and I'm sure I'm not putting anything on him there, but there was still that mentality left over.
Okay.
And it was actually really emotional. Probably the most emotional win this season to me was the Big Ten championship win. And that's because in all the team meetings, all we talked about was the goal is to get there. Yeah. That is the standard we're trying to get to. It wasn't talking about national championships or anything like that. And, that was always so far off.
Right.
But he did it.
Yeah.
And it's huge, right? And again, these guys are 18 to 22 years old. And I can trust them, or I feel like I can trust them to do a lot of things, whether it's playing football or something else in their life. These guys just seem they're built different. They're definitely built different than I was. And again, it's proud to look on them from the outside and say that's the team we cheer for.
Yeah, and it's also great for you to say, hey, I played for that program as well. And regardless of whether you played for Kevin Wilson or whoever it was, hey, it's still your team, a program that you were part of. So congratulations to you too.
Yeah, a lot more people did more than I did. I play is maybe a stretch, but no, definitely it was. I have a jersey, right? And can remember stepping out onto the Memorial Stadium field when it was just a horseshoe, but
right.
But no, definitely memories for sure. So
yeah.
Anyway, I'll let you go. Thanks for the time. Thanks for doing this. I listen in. And keep it up. I can't wait for next year.
Really appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
Ciao. Bye.
That's great. That's great. I've obviously talked to plenty of former players over the years, and that's an extra little bit of perspective there. I really appreciate that call a lot. We have, Troika here on the chat has said Miami should remember that OSU has better talent than them, yet they still beat OSU. That was something that I thought true. And do you think Alberto will transfer back to IU after a year or so at Georgia Tech? I don't know. That is, he's going to want to play. And so who knows, maybe, but it'll depend on how he performs along the way. But he's certainly appreciated here, to say the least. That is, all that he's done. And, look, when he got into games this year, it was blowout time, but he had some moments. And so that was exciting to see as well. I don't think that there's any IU fans that are going to be wishing him any ill will going forward. You have some guys that they leave and people don't feel good about him. Everybody's going to be very happy with that. Got another caller? Caller of your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken, this is Charlie from Bloomington. How are you?
I'm doing good. Charlie, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm just I'm in Kentucky on my way home from the game. I spent a day down in Orlando with a friend after Monday night's incredible victory. But the most incredible thing to me about all this is that people talk about look at how quickly we did it, and I think that when you get a guy like Signetti who doesn't want to lose, it's going to happen. And I always thought if Indiana could find somebody who cared enough about winning that they actually went out there and got players and could do it like Cincinnati can, something very similar to this could happen. It was not it wasn't a pipe dream, but something could happen. The only reason it was a pipe dream is because we never had any president of the university who took football seriously.
Yeah.
It's been a great. It's been so great in the last 2 years. You know, I remember sitting at my desk. I work at IU. I remember sitting at my desk one day, and when he was hired, I don't know what came over me, but it was like, losing's over. Losing is over. We finally got a coach. I did a little research. I Googled him. And before he told everybody to Google it.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I win.
This guy
Google me.
knew what he was doing. He knows what he's doing. And, you know, I hate to see people go, but good luck. If you want to go to Tennessee, you go right ahead. We'll find somebody better. Cincinnati probably has a list of guys ready to go. Because any good coach or athletic director always does.
Right.
Alberto, he's got great talent. Josh Hoover's a hell of a quarterback. I don't blame him for going. Good luck at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
You can't. A point that you made earlier about leaving. That's part of winning. Is when we're getting better players, and that's a great thing. That's not a bad thing at all. So for me, the last what is it now? 5 months of football. Whoever thought we'd be playing almost to February, right?
Yeah.
It has been the best thing in the 56 years I've been going to IU games. This is obviously it's the best season ever, right? We won a national championship.
Right.
But it's not just winning the national championship. It's been all the little things along the way, the check boxes. You know, okay, we beat this team. Oh, now we beat this team. Oh, we just won the Big Ten championship. I mean, that night in Indianapolis, I was out of my mind. You know, so I guess what I'm trying to say is the Cubs, you have to believe at some point something's going to happen. But I told a friend of mine this was better than the Cubs. Nobody ever believed this could happen.
Right.
Except that man who came to Bloomington one night and told us that Purdue sucks, and so does Michigan and Ohio State.
Well, you know, I'm a White Sox fan. I'm a White Sox fan, and you know, the sun shined on them in 2005. You know, teams have that happen in pro sports, but for, you know, college football especially, Indiana's the first team to win a first national championship in 30 years. The past 30 years, it's been people winning their second since Florida. And so when you talk about that kind of stuff, it isn't in college football. It isn't a matter of, hey, the sun shines on a dog's ass every now and again. No, that's not how it works. But he built that, and you mentioned guys leaving, and that's good for them. But you know, Brian Haynes, Mike Shanahan, they are guys that have been loyal to SIG. During the season, decided we're going to do extensions to make sure that we show our loyalty there. And that kind of thing also sends a message that the grass isn't always greener.
And another very quick story. During this time, because I went to the Rose Bowl, the Peach Bowl, and National Championship game. And I got to meet a lot of new people along the way. A couple former IU football players, and one especially I got to talk to and sit down. We were eating lunch together down at Miami. There at the Fan Fest. About what has happened.
Yeah.
So those guys, like the last caller and all them, they are so excited about this. It's fun to see them play a part, even though it's fandom, right? Like all of us.
Right.
But they get their efforts, you know, and sticking with it. You know, God bless them. It paid off.
Absolutely. Well, you be safe coming back.
Look,
And
I will.
I appreciate you calling in. And I mean, it's a hell of a thing that you've gone from the West Coast to the South to Florida, and you come home with the national championship. That's a pretty damn good January.
That's the best January I've ever had. I hate January and February anyway. So
Yeah.
this has been great. But yes, thank you for having this show. Appreciate it.
Yep, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
That's great. It's all of this is just such a connection point for everybody. And again, that's where basketball was a connection point for so long. People desperately wanted football to be good. And by be good, I mean go to a bowl and have winning seasons, national championships. I've said many times on these show and on this podcast and everything that a national championship is out of the realm of possibility. It is go to a bowl, find your 6 wins, build over a couple of years, compete for a Big Ten championship, and like Jared said earlier, Indiana skipped a bunch of steps, and not only skipped a bunch of steps, but put together, one of the greatest seasons in modern football history. And again, it is the wildest story in all of college sports history. Previously the closest to me was Butler nearly winning a national championship in basketball. This is completely different in that where Indiana football was historically to where it is today. It's quite the flip, and it's just been exciting. Now we just got to get basketball to get it together, and that's a work in progress. But I know I'm certainly not out on Darian DeVries. It's a team with flaws. You hope that they could find some kind of foundation and build from there. We'll see what happens. Our next call-in show will be after the Rutgers game, immediately following the final buzzer on Friday. And that game is a 6 p.m. tip-off Eastern time in Piscataway, New Jersey. I'll be right here in the old home studio. Here taking your calls and talking IU basketball. Then we have a weekend where you can relax with the knowledge that the football Hoosiers are national champions, and hopefully people are going to be out and about wearing their championship gear, because everybody has certainly they've earned it. It's been a hell of a year. Just have to get basketball to turn things around. But in the meantime, enjoy the afterglow of all of this, because I said after the Washington game last year, I think it was, Washington football, that it was never going to be any better than it was then. That's as good as it was going to get. And I stand by that because of the lack of expectations. Then you have, that season was amazing. And then you have this season, and it truly will never be better than Monday night was. Never forget your first, let alone get a first Big Ten championship, your first Rose Bowl win, your first Peach Bowl win, your first national championship. It's incredible. And again, if they come out next year and if they have some hiccups, I've always said that if you win a championship, you get a little bit of a break, a little bit of a pause from a ton of criticism. And that's where Indiana football is going to be. Indiana basketball hasn't won anything for a very long time. And so that's where the pressure starts to ramp up on them. And, it'll start Friday. Well, that's all the time we have on this special edition of the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Really appreciate Trevor calling in. Really appreciate Jared calling in. We'll have Jeff Rabjohns on sometime soon to talk about all of this as well. That'll be in the future. They're all shifting gears to basketball. So that, we'll see how the rest of January, February, and early March goes, and then we'll go from there. Well, we're out of time. But for Jeff, Matt, Trevor, and Jared, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.